Hello, hello, hello.
Hi. That was a great video.
Thank you so much. I need to have a more Filipino themed one, right?
Shouldn't be hard to do, I'm sure.
For those of you who are joining us, thank you for watching my show. This is Filipino Hustle Fridays, sponsored from my humble design studio, JH Creative. I'm really excited to welcome my next guest, Marissa Hawkins. She is 100% Filipina, a wife to her high school sweetheart of 32 years, a mother of 3, the CEO of the Hawkins Group, an entrepreneur and speaker. And she is a franchise owner of 7 Massage Envy locations in the Southern Nevada region. Her mission is to help entrepreneurs and small businesses build their communities by marketing through local causes that are in alignment with their businesses or things that matter most to them. I'm so happy to have you on today. Thank you for joining us.
I'm excited to be here, very honored, and the fact that it's Filipino Hustle. I'm so proud. I can't wait to tell my mom, guess what I did? I am on a show for Filipinos. This is awesome. It's like so surreal.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I've been lucky enough to have awesome guests already. And even to meet you. I can't believe someone like you doesn't even have a national platform yet. I think you deserve a lot more publicity and
Thank
highlights.
you. You know, I'm working on it. I'm now found the courage to actually write my own book, and I hope to have it done before the end of this year. And obviously going to start my YouTube channel and really just put out intentional work that, you know, I've been able to experience throughout my journey that hopefully can help other entrepreneurs who are, you know, stepping into the realm of entrepreneurship or, you know, small business. And hopefully I can, you know, shine some light on them.
And we're going to dive into that. We're going to talk about what brought to where you are today and your journey with Massage Envy. And she has a real passion for charity. So we're going to talk about some of the stories that she told me before. And it's really exciting what you've already accomplished in a matter of, like, how long have you been running your business now?
17 years, and Massage Envy has been in existence. This year, they will be celebrating 20 years. So it's so remarkable to actually hear. I only imagined doing the business maybe 5 years, and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to sell. But I didn't think we would last that long. And now here we are over a decade, almost 2 decades in, and we're still running and still, you know, growing strong and learning. I think I'm always forever going to be a student, learning new things. I mean, the pandemic obviously has pushed that along even more so because we're having to learn different ways to run our businesses. And I'm up for the challenge, but let's just say, you know, we all know running a business is no easy feat. It's not for the faint-hearted, and you always are constantly, you know, being challenged. But I think with the right people, with the right attitude and optimism, you know, we can overcome anything. And resilience has been shown through our family background, with many of our family members, you know, migrating to the United States from, you know, the Philippines, that if they could do it and with hardly any English and the American culture, then we can do that too.
Absolutely. And you had mentioned to me that your parents met in Germany. Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your story with your parents and everything, what brought you here?
Yes, my mother and father met in Germany, and then of course produced me and my sisters. But how the story goes is my father actually was petitioned by his sister to come to the United States. My aunt, Anita Samara, who was the matriarch of our family, married an American man who basically brought her to the United States. She settled in Seattle, Washington, and started soon thereafter, obviously petitioning all of her family members to come one by one. The first of that voyage was my uncle and my father. So when they came to the United States, they had to figure out, well, what were they going to do? So they had a job, but then my father ended up, and then my uncle shortly after, signing up for the military. So my father signed up for the U.S. Army. So he was stationed in Stuttgart, Germany, and I was born in Heilbronn. And then my mother and him met, I believe, at the hospital. So they had a group of people, and I don't know how the story goes, but they would, go bowling and all these things. So they ended up falling in love, and hence years later, here I am. So when my mother and father decided to get out of the military, they settled in Seattle, Washington, because that's where my aunt was. So my aunt had a house, and this house was on Beacon Hill. And I remember she had a basement where all of us would obviously migrate to until we obviously had enough money to save to buy our own house and then start, our own journey from there. So my aunt made it a point to actually have a house that she chose that was close to a church. Now, she didn't drive, but it was within walking distance. So everywhere she went, when she went to a job, she was taking a bus. But the one great thing about my aunt is not only did she offer her home so that we could obviously get our, start, she also made sure that she found jobs for, my uncles and my aunts when they came, so that they didn't have to wait too long. She was a great connector. She was always making great friends at her work and always finding ways to help the family. So we owe a lot to her. So the minute we were able to get a house, the next family came in from the Philippines that she'd petitioned. And then they also got their start, lived there for a little bit, built up, enough money to buy a home on their own. And it just kept going like that. So thanks to her, I got to know a lot of cousins that I would have never encountered had she not brought them over to the United States. And my mother also followed the same path. And she was the eldest of, 10 brothers and sisters, like total, I think it's 10 or 12. And so when she came, she also had petitioned her mother and father, and then all her brothers and sisters. So long as they weren't married, they had the opportunity to come to the United States. So she has like 5 brothers, I believe, that she got over here, and a sister. So grateful for all of that. But I think growing up, we also understood that there were still a lot more challenges of bringing other people here. But for those that weren't able to migrate, from the Philippines to the United States, we still made sure that we took care of them in any capacity that we could. So when we started having jobs, we would actually, they called them the Balak buy-in boxes, right? Fill those, not just, for the holidays, but, throughout the year, we would still gently used clothes, because anything that came from USA was absolutely, golden. It was like they won $1 million. And I thought to myself, man, Mom, who would want these old shoes? I mean, honestly, nobody's going to want it. Then you see a picture of someone wearing your actual, clothing item or shoe. And then you find out for yourself that, oh my gosh, they really do love our stuff. So I never really took anything for granted, knowing that, people appreciated things that we no longer appreciated, and it was their treasure. And oftentimes, if they didn't use it for themselves, they were selling it in the markets to make their own money for their families. So a lot of the things that we take for granted here, we made sure that we sent over to the Philippines so that they had. And that also consisted of going to Costco to buy, the Spam, Vienna sausage, chocolates, towels, socks,
underwear,
absolutely, all that thing. So Julia, I mean, this is nothing that's new to any Filipino who is in our age group that has not experienced this. And so I think someone asked me that question, where does your philanthropy come? My mom was very giving, and she was always showing us what we needed to do and how fortunate we are to live here in the United States, and how we should always make sure to, give to those in need, and find a way to, make sure that nothing goes wasted. And I think a lot of people understand that in the Filipino culture. we don't waste anything. So, yeah, but I'm happy to know that it is going to good use and that nothing. And so now I have actually practiced that habit. All my old shoes and clothes, I never ever like throw away unless obviously they are in pretty bad shape. Yep.
And
Yeah.
it's true. I mean, I feel like I have a hoarding problem because I do feel guilty about
And
throwing
that's from
anything
our
away.
parents, right? My husband doesn't understand that. He's like super clean, wants to get rid of everything. And I'm telling him, no, don't throw that away. He says, well, when do you plan to get rid of it? Otherwise, it's going in the trash.
Same thing for
So
me.
I told him, I'm like, no, don't do that because I'll cry and I'll go back in the trash can. And I've done that and grabbed it. And my family thinks I'm crazy, but it does stem from some habits that my mother has.
Yeah. My mom too, like food, anything. And I want to make sure that I feel okay with, like, for sure, I want to give it to somebody because I know like a Goodwill or anybody can use it. It's
Right.
decent. It can be used. But yeah, I know. I feel like the charity work and the giving spirit is deeply rooted in our culture.
Mhm.
Would you say that it's played a major role? I think it has played a major role for you.
Absolutely. I think in our culture, obviously our parents always want what's best for us. Any parent would. And I know that there was a lot of hardship for my parents to work two jobs to put my sisters and I all through college, and the sacrifices that they made to, make sure that we had piano lessons, swimming lessons. My father had raised three girls, so karate lessons to kung fu lessons to ward off the boys. All the things that they did to make sure that we had everything. But I would say that yes, that upbringing, had I not had that foundation, I would never be able to do all the things that I do. And a lot of the charity work that I have done are all related to things that resonate with me. For instance, the book drive, because I have three children, I think that it's important to, get children into reading. It really helps, broaden your vocabulary, open your mindset, take you to places you've never been. Second of all, we've done US vets, hence my father being in the military and my husband also being in the military. And then the last one was we did because of the pandemic was the Healthcare Heroes Give and the Nominate Your Favorite Healthcare Hero, where we basically gave back to our community during the pandemic. And that was getting, gift cards to our, healthcare heroes so that they could have some R&R time because they gave so much of themselves and jeopardize, even their family, health, by servicing our communities. And so I thought it was important to give back to the Nurses Association. And the funny thing is, my mother wanted me to be a nurse, and I went a different path other than what she wanted for me. So I guess it turned out okay because, we did a Nominate Your Favorite Healthcare Hero, and there she was at the very front row, and also accepting the proclamation on behalf of our business because of the work that we did. So it's an honor to like bring it back full circle to know that our paths were meant to be and that our journey is no accident, and that everything that we are doing right now has already been called out from our ancestors. They've already paved the way, they've already done the work, and they've already prayed for us to be where we are today. And so I think it's important to give thanks to the people who wanted this for us. We also obviously have to want it for ourselves and take action. But I think there are so many people who believe in that next generation that their name, family name, will hold, value and have some type of heritage and legacy that they can leave behind. And I think that we want the traditions to continue to be in the future for our grandchildren and for our children's children, etc. And I think that that's important.
You mentioned how you got into entrepreneurship eventually, but you had a career before. You
Mhm.
actually had a job, and you went to University of Washington, right? So
Yes,
tell
yes.
us a little bit about your journey from, getting into college and what was that like for you from growing up there in Nevada, and then going
Well, I
to
grew up in
Washington?
Seattle, Washington.
Seattle.
And
Okay.
yes, because remember we lived at my aunt's basement, then my
Oh,
parents eventually
there.
bought a house, and then we eventually I moved to Vegas. So what happened was
Oh, I kept thinking everyone was in Nevada.
I'm the
Sorry.
oldest, and so I'm supposed to be setting the trend. I'm the role model, for my sisters. And I went off the beaten path. So you can kind of say I was a little bit of a rebel in my earlier days, but it all panned out for the best. I remember my father asking me, well, what do you want in life? I was like, I want to be successful. I want to be able to fend for myself. I want to be independent so I don't have to rely on you and mom. And my dad always scares me. But I remember because I didn't go to University of Washington right from, high school. Although my parents had already paid for me to get enrolled, it was like 100% I'm going to University of Washington because I got accepted there. Irony is I did end up finishing there, but I ended up following my boyfriend, who was my high school sweetheart, to Georgia. So he was a year older than me, and he basically, enlisted into the Army. And so after I graduated, he says, you can go to school here. And I'm like, okay. So I thought it was exciting. I wanted to get out of Seattle. My mom and I were just not gelling, how that goes when you get into that age where you know everything and, all of a sudden, you're taking risk and you're doing things on your own. So I ended up going to Georgia and I studied at Augusta College. It's now university. And I studied there until he actually got done with the military. I think he served about 3 or 4 years. After that, we came back to Washington State, and then I finished up my degree at University of Washington. So I had a science background, and I remember my last year I was pregnant with my first child. So we ended up having our first child, and soon after that, our second child. I was literally 5 years after that. And then after we had our second child, we located to Nevada. And the reason why that happened was because my girlfriend got married in Nevada, and she had a Las Vegas wedding, and we knew nothing about Las Vegas our first time. But I remember that there were billboards everywhere about buying a home in Vegas and how affordable it was. And of course, who doesn't like sunshine and waking up to sunshine? I am a Leo. I love the sun. I am a sunshine girl and
very different from Seattle.
Very different. It was a 360. So I, of course, didn't want to leave my family. And that was a hard thing for me. I definitely cried about it. But, my husband was pretty persistent. And he says, I'm going. It's going to be a great change for us. And he was right. We ended up moving here. I got a job transfer. Back then I was in pharmaceutical sales because my degree allowed me to actually land a job in pharmaceuticals, which I did for 7 years until I got that 7-year itch. And then we ended up transferring from one pharmaceutical job to the one here. And my husband at the time also transferred with his job. So we ended up moving to Las Vegas. And then when my father retired from the post office, he and my mom actually moved here in 2007. So we were here 2001. And when my father retired, they moved here in 2007, because we all know that being the oldest, part of the tradition is that the oldest is responsible for taking care of the parents. And hopefully, your siblings will also chip in and pitch in to help. So my father and mother moved shortly after that. And I ended up opening up Massage Envy in 2005 with my husband. And how that all happened was I was at a new pharmaceutical. So the company that I moved to Vegas with, King Pharmaceuticals, transferred me here. And then later on, I ended up transferring to a new company, which was a Japanese-based company called ASI. So ASI, I was covering Vegas for a while, and then it got bigger. Their territory grew. So I ended up picking up Vegas and Arizona. So true story, I ended up driving 1 week out of the month, leaving my last child, Malia, at home 1 week out of the month. And I was nursing and all these things, So I, needless to say, was not happy about making that drive. Obviously, I learned a lot about, those long drives, which is a 4.5-hour drive from Vegas to Arizona. Learned a lot about myself in that journey, and learning, that all these things that I've ever done, I've had to learn on my own. Like, we didn't even have GPS back then. We had a map that we had to find locations for. And I remember going to White Mountain in Arizona. It's a 2-lane road, and there's a jailhouse up there. I'm like thinking, I'm a single female driving up, this is crazy. So one of those appointments that I was going on where I left my child at home, I thought to myself, okay, something's got to give. And on that particular day when I had said that, I remembered the car AC had gone out in my company car. So if you know anything about Arizona weather and Vegas weather, Arizona is 10 degrees hotter than Vegas. So what happened was the AC gave out. And so no matter what you did to get relief, whether you turned on the AC, you got hot air blowing at you. And if you rolled your window down, you had hot air blowing. So needless to say, it was a miserable trip on that particular ride, but it was also a blessing in disguise. I ended up calling my cousin and telling her that I don't plan on working today. I'm going to pick it up tomorrow because I just had a rough day. My car AC went out and I'm to go drop this off to get it fixed. Nonetheless, I ended up asking her, can you recommend to me a great massage place and a great place to eat? Because I'm going to take care of me first. And so I ended up doing that. So she called for me, and one of the locations said they were completely busy. And at the time, the massages were worth $29.95. And it was a brand new business. And she said that it was on the radio and on television, and that a couple of her friends had tried it out and had great experiences. So I said, all right, I'll try it out as long as it's not a school. She's like, no, it's an actual legit place. So the first location she calls is completely booked. So we ended up calling another location for me, and they got me in. So all I can tell you is I was miserable. I was tired. And I came out of that massage as a new woman, rejuvenated and feeling like $100. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, do you have one in Vegas? Because I could definitely use one of these there. And the lady said, no, we don't have one. But if you're interested in franchise opportunities, you should basically, call this person. So I knew that my husband and I actually had rental property in Arizona, and we were coming back a week later to obviously check on them. So on a ride there, what I did was after I got out of my appointment, I made an appointment for myself again with someone different, and I gave my husband my person because I thought he has to experience this and have the best massage from the person I got it from. So we ended up coming a week later, and he gets this massage from my person. Of course, I knew he was going to love it. And I actually thought I wasn't going to like my next massage as much because obviously I gave him the best person. But she actually was even better than the first. I'm like, this can't get any better. So I had mentioned to my husband on our ride there a little bit about massage envy. And I only said, if we were to ever open a business, this business sounds really nice, nothing to the point where we should open this at first. And I said, you'll love it. Trust me. You're going to love your massage, da, 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 da. When you get excited because you found a place and this, that, and the other, and they probably might open in Vegas. So what ended up happening is we both get our massage a week later. We both love it. Top of the hour. The lobby is full of people, all signing up for memberships, all asking, about, when is there going to be more locations? And of course, I wanted to make sure, we asked again, when is it opening in Vegas? And lo and behold, we happened to catch the actual owner that day. And so she says, if you're really interested, grab one of these brochures and contact Steve Cook. He's the regional director and Vegas, and he's going to be building soon. So if you're interested, you should contact him. So my husband is the one who actually had the light bulb moment, took the brochure, and we actually called and made a first appointment. And I remember that we broke bread together, and I know that was like the turning point where he actually thought about it and decided, not knowing us, that he needed some partners to run Vegas because he lived in Arizona. So we ended up being partners in the first location. And I think we only said yes because we didn't know how to run a business, but we figured, well, with Steve by us, we're going to be okay, and he can show us the ropes. But training was only like 3 days, maybe 4 tops, and then we were all on our own. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh,
Wow.
how does this even happen? But before even all of that happened, Julia, I had cold feet. I'm not going to lie. I literally had all these doubts that were running through my mind. I remember telling my pharmaceutical buddies and my family members that we were going to open a business, and many of them really thought we were crazy because you don't leave a pharmaceutical job that provides you a company car, pays for your medical benefits, and you got some of the best medical benefits through pharmaceuticals, and pays, pretty well. And I think I may have mentioned to you that at that very time, my husband was doing real estate. And so I was the steady paycheck plus the medical benefits for 3 children, all under the age of 10. So talk about taking that leap of faith and really, taking a risk. We had a lot to risk at that time because even the money that we had to put down, we had obviously taken it out of our house,
Right.
The equity of our house we used as a down payment. And what was so smart about, this transaction was that, it was a 51-49% split. So our partner was majority and we were, the minority. But we learned later on, about partnerships, which was fantastic because when we, after a year's time, had bought it from him, we understood the 51-49% and how that all worked, and red lines and just, contracts, operation agreements, and all these things. And starting a business, getting your business license, all these things that you have to learn in the process of, opening up your own business. And I think those things we would have never learned had we not taken that leap of faith. So now I can actually be able to help our kids and other, future entrepreneurs, walk that walk and talk that talk because I learned it. I didn't have that fortune to be able to call someone, a relative, or, someone I knew that could actually answer questions for me. And when those questions weren't answered, I had to make a decision all on my own. And I think that was the beauty of it all, is that, you never know what's in you until you have to go through the process, which we're all
Put to the test.
Yeah, you're put to the test. Yeah, school of hard knocks, right?
And that's so fascinating because the franchise world is not easy. You put a lot of money up front. You trust that hopefully the brand and the company helps, but it actually involves a lot of hard work. Like you said, you have to put in a good amount of work and legwork. So
yeah, I think that is true. You buy into a franchise because they're supposed to think of everything for you, from the marketing to the logo to the computer system to sheets and tables, vendors, inventory, and a checklist of what you're supposed to do. So all you have to do is follow it to the T and run your business. But that's truly not how it goes. I think in any business, franchise, small business, big business, you absolutely, running a business is hard, have to give your 100%. And you learn a lot along the way on how strong you really are. You start building your own character and resilience, and you go through the motions, and some days are harder than others. But I wouldn't be here 17 years later if I didn't enjoy, what I've done and what we've been able to do for other people. I think the beauty of running a business is, the lives that we get to impact, not just providing paychecks and seeing other people, buy cars and homes, but also, your community. You're able to use your business as a platform to give back to your community and be able to have a voice and a seat at the table to make decisions on, how are we going to represent this, brand here locally? Because even though you didn't come up with the name Massage Envy and the actual franchise yourself, what you do with your business that you can do on a small level locally to help build, your brand name in your local, areas. And that's exactly what we've done, because we put ourselves out there to help in, our community's time of need. And whenever there are causes that we can give back to, we most certainly inject ourselves into things that are in alignment with us. And yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned the charity part. I was going to ask you real quick before we move on to that, those stories there that you told me about, which I'm excited. I know you mentioned Steve was a great mentor as well. I had a friend who also bought into a franchise. He had a partner, 50 split, 50%, and that partner ended up being horrible. So
there's a lot more stories like that. And Steve Cook in the beginning, I liked his personality. He was Mormon. I never knew too much about, the Mormon, religion. And I learned a lot from him. And I think he learned a lot from us, being minorities and our Catholic background. So we learned a lot from each other. But what I can tell you about Steve is he was our angel. And even though he's not here today, he's always present. And I say that literally because I think I shared with you, I uncovered at his funeral that not only was he born on 5/5/1955, but his wife says, "Do you want to know something even more peculiar?" I was like, "What's that?" He was born at 5:55 in the morning. So on the day of his funeral, I remember seeing nickels on the floor. When I looked up, a license plate would say 555, or I would look at the time randomly and it would be 5:55 in the afternoon. So I obviously was curious about the numbers, so I had to look it up. And in the numerology world, it talked about transition and changed. And, Steve absolutely brought that change to me because he believed more in me than I believed in myself. Because I remember the conversation with his wife at the funeral. I said, for a long time, I had resented him for not answering his phone because I had to make some tough decisions all on my own. And she simply said to me, she says, "You know what, Marissa? What Steve already knew at that point was that you had everything within you that you needed to survive and that you needed to run a business." And he knew that. So you didn't really need him. You had yourself to be able to thank for all of that because you obviously, ran the business and it's still running. So she's like, "You got to give yourself credit." And I thought to myself, wow, that was a really great gift that Steve gave to me. And then, of course, last year I uncovered there is a picture. We have a uh, corporate building that we purchased because we want to give back to our employees, and we wanted to start, you know, investing in having people within our community who are experts in money, experts in buying homes, experts in life insurance, be able to give people who are coming right out of school the opportunity to understand how to protect your wealth, how to, survive in this world and to start, saving for a house, a car, and obviously protecting your family with life insurance. Obviously, the pandemic happened and we weren't able to get that started, but that is, in the works, and in the near future, we plan to actually do that because we want to be more than just a business. We want to be able to give back to our employees knowledge and give them that kind of fortune. So anyways, in this corporate office, there is a conference room, and in the conference room, I have a picture of the grand opening ribbon cutting ceremony. And it didn't dawn on me until last year that as I'm looking at this picture, there is a clock on the wall. And of course, you can only guess what time it is. 5:55. Or it's actually the long
Wow.
hand is on the 55 and the short hand is on the 5. So it's crazy. I thought to myself, my goodness, this is crazy. But right above the picture is a quote, a little saying that says, "Let what you do today be enough." And so, throughout my journey, and as a business owner, and many entrepreneurs can attest to this, is that, we are always trying to do everything all in one day's work and get it all accomplished. And sometimes 2 or 3 things is enough as opposed to 10 things is what I'm learning as I get older. I'm such a type A person and I always want to get things off my list. And it's hard to do, especially now having 7 businesses. Scaling is not as easy as having 1 or 2 businesses. And boy, it's challenging, but it's rewarding because you never know, the strength you have within you until you actually step past the 2 zone.
Oh my goodness.
7, which
That,
we're in the 7th one in a pandemic, because we still believe in our economy and we still believe in, injecting, more into our communities and providing jobs. So we took that risk to open up our 7th location and fulfill our obligations of our 7th license. And we got 1 more to go.
wow.
So yeah, it's crazy.
That is crazy. So you went from, let's try and open this one one location, then it went to 7, or now you're going to.
And when we opened the first location, we didn't open the second Massage Envy right away because we had another business called Face Logic. It was another franchise, and it was strictly all facials. And we opened that in 2008. But at that time, Massage Envy did not offer facials. So what ended up happening is 2009, Massage Envy started offering facials. And so in order for us to open our second Massage Envy, we had to sell our Face Logic because it was now considered a competing business. And because of the non-compete, we could not open up that second Massage Envy. So we ended up selling them Face Logic so that our employees that we had currently in that location could continue, and they were all gainfully employed, to have a paycheck. And then we ended up opening our second Massage Envy in 2012. So 2018 is when we picked up Steve Cook's 4 locations, because before he passed away, he was already working on selling his 4 locations to us, and he was working on fulfilling his bucket list. But of course, that didn't happen. He had passed away before that. And I remember, okay, well, I guess we're not going to be buying these locations anymore because, he's no longer around. And I didn't feel the need to reach out to his wife because I thought it would be too insensitive. And so 4 months roll around and we get this call from Shannon once again. And she says, hey, how are you guys doing? I wanted to respect Steve's wishes, and I know he loved you guys so much on basically selling the business to you guys if you guys are still interested. And of course, we were so elated and excited. Like, yeah, we would like to continue doing that. So we ended up, signing the contract, and it was literally, we overnight grew from 2 to 6. And we had to literally get everybody back employed under our now LLC. So if you can imagine what that was like, it was like 200 employees, 200 plus employees, all having W-2s re-signed and all paperwork, all changed over. It was crazy. Not to mention when you purchase, a new franchise, not new franchise, you take over, you have to remodel it to the brand new specs. So we had 4 remodels that we had to do. So we did 2 in 2018, 2 in 2019, bought a commercial building in 2019, and ended up, like building that out to be classroom setting and, style. We basically had that, going, and literally it was crazy because we hadn't taken a break. So then 2020 came along and we were about to open February, get all of our team members together and show them this wonderful project we're working on. And boom, March 2020 happens and the pandemic hit. And this is all while we're doing our first ever book drive. It was crazy and a roller coaster, but we got 4,100 books purchased for our first book drive. We ended up finishing that build out for that building, and we ended up, having the pandemic hit. So we couldn't do much then except for take a break, which is what I needed anyways. So, but what I focused my time on was the philanthropy side. So some of those pictures that you just showed were the nurses that got, that joined us in this journey. We actually partnered with the Filipino Nurses Association. And that's little Liz right there, who was on this journey with me to raise books and basically get our community involved, our teams at Massage Envy involved, and affecting, of course, the students and teachers within our local communities. So we came up with this idea the day after Valentine's Day to try and raise 12,000 books in 45 days. People thought it was crazy, but I thought we have 12 locations because our 13th location didn't open yet. We could do 1,000 per location. And that was a big goal, I guess. But what ended up transpiring from that is we ended up with 4,100 books purchased. And you saw a picture there of Dana White. He was a contributor of that, thankfully. And I didn't even know who he was. And so I was at one of my girlfriend's restaurants, Mama Bird, which he peruses so often. And they happened to tell me, oh, this guy's a celebrity, and he's, this and that. And I'm like, I'm not really a big, proponent on getting all excited about celebrity status and all that. But what I can remember is that after I came out of the restroom, I thought, you know what the heck? Let me just ask this guy if he would like to donate, to our book drive. And sure enough, he so willingly went into his pocket, grabbed some money, and literally just gave it to me, a random person. And I literally could have taken that money and spent it on, drugs, alcohol, anything. And he literally took that opportunity to say, yeah, I'll help the kids with no hesitation. And so for me, what I love most about, him and his celebrity status is that he has a big heart and a heart of gold. And I was so thankful to have met him that day because he boosted up our number count on the books. So of course, I'm so competitive in my ways that I'm like, we're going to finish this. And maybe had we not closed our doors because of the pandemic, we might have reached our goals. I don't know. I can never know now, but we had 4,100 books, and now we're down to 3,600 because we gave 500 of it to the toy drive to put in as stocking stuffers. But I love this project so much is because we got our community involved, and they were able to give a message to the student. So this is all started because we didn't want teachers to come out of their pockets at the end of the school year, because this is the time we were going to distribute it at the end of the school year, so that the teachers could pick, a book that they could give to each child. And the books, were all about life skills, animals, and science. So the teacher could write a message to the child, what they enjoyed most about the child. And then the message, when someone purchased it, either online or at our actual Massage Envies, they could write, a favorite quote from one of their favorite books. A lot of Dr. Seuss's came out of that. And then, or a quote of words of encouragement. And so we still have to give out those books because we're in 2022 and the pandemic didn't stop in 2020 or 2021. So we were rolling with the punches, and schools didn't still get into operations until then. So that was a big project that I'm very proud of. And we did raise so much, so much books for children for first, second, and third grade that I can't wait to give them to them at the end of the school year. Or we were trying to work out, during National Reading Month, which is right now. So I have been going to the schools to read to children. And that's, another perk of being a business owner is that you get to be a community leader out there and focus your time on things that matter. And, charity work has always been near and dear to me. So being able to, give my time up to read books to children and express to them the importance of education and reading books is where I think our time is well spent. And Liz, actually right there, that's a picture of a student who aspires to be a singer and dancer. And, she thought it was pretty cool to be in an actual magazine with me, that she wanted to pretend as if she was signing off, as if she was already a superstar. And I think that's so good because we have to act as if we're already that person. And that message there is from Dana White himself. It says, "The UFC loves you." That's his own handwriting. He signs off on it. I hope you enjoy the book, and I would love to, come by and listen to you read. So we did an impromptu video thanks to my girlfriends who were egging it on. And they're like, "Can we get you on video?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And he's like, "So cool." He's like, "Yeah." So what a really great guy. And I hope that I'll be able to work with him again in the near future and, get him to, join this journey with us to get more books out into our community.
That is awesome. And that, you're brave on so many levels. I would not have gone up to him if I knew he was in the same restaurant as me.
You know what? Yeah. I'm like, what the heck? And now that's why I know that if we still had enough time, I would have been going to all the celebrities and asking them. And I think I would have actually got my goal accomplished of getting 12,000 books in 45 days. And I didn't do this alone. It was a team effort. So we have 5 owner groups at the time who actually joined in on this and got all of their locations to get their team members to, partake. And it was fun because, talk about getting, in alignment with your teams and seeing something fun come to fruition. They did TikTok videos to raise awareness about buying and purchasing books at their location. So the person who basically had the best TikTok, which was so fun. They were so creative. They had a gentleman dress up as Socrates. They had a little girl, they had a lady do one of our team members do a ukulele. And then they had the books in the back as fans, like they were in Hawaii. so cute, and so many more. And we had someone make up lyrics and sang, a massage therapist sang, and another girl who had a Disney voice sing. It was
That's so
amazing, all
cool.
the talent that we had that we would never have known
You
had
took
this book drive not come up.
So this idea came from you, though. I
Yes,
feel like
yes,
this was
yes,
your
because
idea.
we're living in an era where we have old school people. I think I fall in that genre. And you've got, the new age millennials, which I think that, people oftentimes criticize these our millennials, but we're not here to be their critics. We're here to, help see them grow and really partner together, because we can each learn a lot from, the age gap. And I think it's important for us to get with the times and understand how we can work together, because what they lack in one sense, is a level of expertise in our sense, the social bridge, of being able to effectively communicate, we can help them in that. Whereas they can help us in the digital aspect and how to market our business and how to have fun. I think there's a lot to be learned. And, if we're too busy criticizing what the millennials are not, capable of doing and what they lack, then we really miss out on what the gift is that they have to offer, us, and what we can learn from each other. I really truly believe in that. And so I've learned a lot. I love working with the young people as well. And as a matter of fact, my business IG side is created, by a UNLV student. Our newsletter that goes out to all of our team members is created by another UNLV student in college, all different years. And then I have my TikTok videos, which I don't even know why I'm doing this, but I'm a trendsetter, I guess, but I'm also, try to be hip with the times. And I have another UNLV student who's graduating this year, her fourth year, who, takes me outside of my box, lets me know what's trending, and obviously getting outside of my own level of comfort when it comes to TikTok, because
That's great.
we all know videos is where it's going in the future, and it's not going away. And TikTok is pure entertainment. So, being entertaining for, the general public, I guess I could do, because I have no problem at laughing at my own self and not taking myself so seriously sometimes. So they're fun, and I love fashion. So, and I love having fun. So that's my other contribution to society, is making these funny videos.
And TikTok has a unique ability to go viral pretty easily, even if you don't have a big following. There's a couple things, because I know we're getting close to the end of our time, but I wanted to ask you more about, I love how you unfolded this story about the charity work with the nurses. I mean, you helped raise a lot of, I guess you also had gift cards available. There was can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I don't even think that we would have embarked on, the whole healthcare heroes thing had the pandemic not happened. So what happened was we were deemed as non-essential. So our businesses had to close per our governor's mandate. So we thought to ourselves, well, what are we going to do? So we ended up keeping some of our locations open. Actually, all of the locations open with one person manning, the phones. So they were at the helm of it all and taking these calls, because people were wondering, what's going on? Why aren't you guys considered, essential? Because I have migraine headaches. I need my massage, because chiropractic was considered essential. So anyways, what ended up happening is we decided to call all of our members and guests to see if they were okay, if they needed anything, because the phone calls we were getting were both parties were losing their jobs, husband and wife, or, the business basically closed because it was a restaurant, something of that nature, or a family member had died, or a spouse had died due to COVID. And those were some tough calls. I also went in and made these calls along with my team members. And I remember one particular call, it was from a nurse on the other line. She was on the other line when I made this call. And I said, hi, good morning. My name is Marissa, and I'm calling from Massage Envy. We're making a courtesy call just to check up on all of our members to make sure, you guys are okay, and that if there's anything that you guys should need. And, what ended up happening was the nurse says to me, that is exactly why Vegas is strong. I said, excuse me? She says, it's because of businesses like you and people like you who take the time to reach out to your communities to make sure that people are taken care of, looking out for each other. And she says, I'm so humbled by that because I am doing the same thing that you're doing and making sure that the elderly patients or, are having their medication and also have food. So should they not have either one of those, we're here to drive, pick up their medications and pick up food for them. And so a light bulb moment happened where I thought to myself, we should do something for these nurses when we get back and when we're able to open. So that's exactly what we did. June 6th, we were able to open our doors. I talked with the other owner groups, got their buy-in to do something where we would ask our members if they'd like to donate any of their unused prepaids to the Healthcare Heroes Gift. So we partnered with the Filipino Nurses Association, and we let them know about this idea that we had, after a month's time, collected 1,200 services that was so generously given by our community to obviously give to our healthcare heroes. Little did we know that the year of 2020 would be proclaimed by the World Health Organization as the year of the nurses. All we wanted to do was obviously help our communities of tired nurses who gave selflessly of themselves and, put their own families' lives at risk. So, it was only fitting that we gave them time to themselves and help them be able to relax. So you see here that was at Sunrise Hospital. These ladies here on the side, actually, the two ladies in the middle are actual nurses. And the two ladies on the side are from the Filipino Nurses Association, and they were the ones who made the calls to all the hospitals so that we could meet CEOs and CNOs and nurses and basically drop off all the gift cards to each of the locations. What I love most about this project is actually meeting, the CEOs and CNOs of these, great organizations. Each hospital is ran differently, all kinds of different leaderships, and these types of relationships would never have happened in a networking scene, but it happened overnight genuinely because of our intention to give back to the nurses and to the hospitals and let them know that, we care, your community cares. And the overwhelming response I got from the CEOs who met with us was, this is so wonderful to know that, the community is, giving back, and small businesses are taking, a part of this, giving back scene, and that they actually care. So it was really awesome to know that we could use our business now, to pivot in a time where people needed us the most. And now, because we weren't able to offer services, they had prepaids built up that they absolutely said yes to. And oftentimes people were so generous, we only asked for one prepaid. They gave 5, some gave 10, and it was a blessing. So when that was done, I also caught a segment on Good Morning America in February 2021 that the title was The Aftermath of the Pandemic. And what was happening is our healthcare heroes were experiencing, depression, mental health issues. Some had committed suicide. And one story caught my eye, and it's because I have sisters myself, where a lady has a sister who is 8 years, she was a doctor of 8 years and showed no physical signs of any type of despair or mental health issues. So she had committed suicide. So the sister decided to create a foundation, a 1-800 actually hotline, where she got psychiatrists. She talked with a fellow psychiatrist, and she said, we need to do something about it. So they created this, 1-800 hotline that was open 24 hours. And it consisted of 700 volunteers of retired psychiatrists, so that anytime someone was feeling exhausted, they didn't have to feel like they were going to lose their license because they just needed someone to talk to, someone to vent to. And so I loved the idea, and I thought to myself, my goodness, our work is still not done here. We've got a lot of great press for the 2021. What can we do where it doesn't involve just Massage Envy, another healthcare package that we could give to the hospitals? So that's when I came up with a collaboration where we got 5 other businesses and 4 other businesses involved. So we got Hilton. So Lake Las Vegas Hilton was generous enough to give 2 nights stay at their hotel, which is absolutely beautiful in Lake Las Vegas, not even on the Strip. It was beautiful.
Wow.
Then we got season 12 Hell's Kitchen winner, Reflection Bay, Scott Cummings, to give a $100 gift certificate to have brunch with him. And then we got a $100 gift card from Mama Bird Southern Kitchen, because it's a small business, because 10,000 restaurants had closed, I heard. And so we wanted to obviously give them, a way to advertise and let people know who they are and what they're all about. And even though it wasn't on the health kick, it has delicious food. And it was because families, were having to get fed and they didn't want to have to cook. So that was why that one was included in there. And then we had Orange Theory, another franchise like Massage Envy, donate, workout sessions. So that was supposed to be a healthcare package to give to one individual per hospital. What I love about this is that we were able to get our community involved by having them with a QR code, and all of our members and guests send that QR code to any of their family members if they wanted to, vote for a particular person in a hospital. So all the hospitals got involved, told all their team members, and they loved it because they got to recognize people within the hospital that picked up extra shifts for them, that mopped the floor, that cleaned after them. So it was such a loving environment, because people love the fact that they can actually nominate someone they worked with, and they actually were in competition. Every hospital was like, every week I would give them updates. All right, Spring Valley Hospital is on the lead. They have the most nominations. And so when this was all said and done, and I think it was about a month's time, we got over 900 nominations come through, all 14 hospitals. And then at the end of it, we made an announcement, and we got the dignitaries involved, and we got certificates of recognition by Governor Sisolak, Mayor Goodman, Dina Titus, Susie Lee, and then we got Commissioner Justin Jones and Councilwoman Michelle Romero to come to the actual event, which happened to be at Reflection Bay, which we live in a desert, but Reflection Bay, I thought the irony of it all is there's a big lake right behind us. Man, it was so beautiful that you wouldn't even know you were in a desert. But I thought the title Reflection Bay was, really like epic, because of the fact that we all had something. We were all affected by the pandemic in some sort of way. So we had something that we could think about, that we could reflect on, and how it has changed us. And every single person there brought one significant other. One brought her dad, one brought their husband, wives, whatever. So they got to see, the commissioner and our councilwoman give these, recognitions and proclamations. We received it as business owners for initiating this cause. And we also partnered with the suicide prevention to let them know that if you know someone who is suffering, there is help. And here we have information with your $1,000. It was close to $1,000 per person that they got these packages. So we, Mama Bird and I, so Kaori is another mom like myself, put these beautiful boxes together, made them so pretty. And inside them, they had the suicide prevention information and all the gift cards to all of those 5 businesses that I had made mention to you. So at the end of it all, I was purely exhausted. I didn't know all the work that went into communicating with 14 hospitals, 5 businesses, and then, of course, dignitaries, and have us all pull that together. It was a team effort, but my brain was like naturally fried from doing something like that. Never again am I going to do that all on my own. That was a lot of work. But the beauty of that beautiful piece of work was that everyone knows that they were not forgotten, and that, we found them valuable, and we, obviously came together to make that event happen, all for the sake of making sure we recognize the people behind the scenes, which
Wow.
was us. So
That is so fascinating. And business owners like you, entrepreneurs like you, can make these things possible because of the passion that you have for people. And I remember you mentioned in our call that it came full circle because your mom wanted you to be a nurse.
yeah,
Even though you didn't ultimately become a nurse, you were
I
helping.
got the opportunity to thank her and my father, because they were in the first row, and they actually got to hold the proclamation from our business, because we got recognized for that. So I made a joke about it. I said, the irony is my mom wanted me to be a nurse, and here we are in front of all these nurses, recognize them for their work. And now they can thank their daughter for organizing this event to obviously recognize the work that our nurses do. So although I was not able to be the nurse that she wanted me to be, I became who I was naturally supposed to be. And I think that she saw right then and there that God works in such great ways, because my father was there, and he's the spiritual side, because he's the one who made us go to church every Sunday. So, I thank him also for, making sure that he instilled this God in me, and, all the things that I was able to do is all thanks to him. And I never, go a day without, prayer and making sure that people understand that my spiritual side also is what gets me going, my faith and my trust in God. And taking that leap of faith was no accident, I guess. You got to have the courage to do that. And I think God definitely gave me enough courage to say, you're going to do this. And I've been guided and protected all through that way. And so, but yeah, it was, the irony of it all is that my parents were both there to see witness of all the work that their daughter was able to do to get that together, and have everybody come up to say, congratulations, your daughter pulled off a really big event, and getting everyone here like this. I remember the Las Vegas Hilton said, we've been wanting to do this for a long time, and we just weren't able to, pull it off. And here you are, doing something like this, and, getting the business owners to come forward and talk about what it meant to live in a pandemic, and what it was like to have, our nurses be tired, work countless hours, and now to be able to do a project like this together was outstanding. And I think they were very equally as shocked as I was when we took off. So
I
my
don't
PR
think
guy,
anyone else
I know,
could
was definitely
I
on the
mean,
clock.
that's why it's so fascinating. I don't know if anyone else really could have pulled it off. I mean, your passion drove you, and your connections, like you had all the connections, the right pieces in place to make it happen. And I feel like that's why you were at the center of it, making it happen. I mean, it's just really awesome. And there's so many aspects that I could probably start digging into more about, even like how the fact that you and your husband are running the business together, like that's not an easy dynamic either.
No, people always ask, they wanted me to share more of that. My husband's very private behind the scenes, but how our dynamic works is I'm the frontliner and he's behind the scenes constructing. And if there's anything malfunctioning, he's like the janitor, the fix-it guy, and making sure that everything is working. So that's the dynamic of it all. But we're different people, and he stays in his lane, I stay in mine, but we come together when it comes to making sure that we're on the same page for our people. And we could never be this far without being surrounded by great people. And so throughout our years, we've met great people, and whether they stayed with us or they left, I still keep in good communication with them. And if I didn't, like I said in the beginning, I didn't know what to do, they always had picked up where I, left off, or Marissa, I got it. You do your thing, I do mine. And that's the reason why I'm able to do the philanthropy side, because I think it's important, when they're doing their job, they don't realize that they also get affected. And I'll bring one more thing up to you is that when we gave away those gift cards, one came in particular, and a therapist happened to get a gift card redeemer for the Healthcare Heroes gift. And she shared with me a story about how she was massaging a male nurse, and he started to cry. Wow. So she said, am I hurting you? Because I can lighten up, maybe my pressure's too deep. He says, no, I can't remember. It's been so long where I've been able to just relax like this and exhale. I've been working double shifts. I've seen, some of my, cohorts that I've worked with pass away, many people's lives gone. And we were so busy that we couldn't even take the calls to let their family members know that, they passed. And they kept calling, and no one was there to pick up that line. And I felt so bad. And just all the stories that go behind, that period of time, which was horrific for the people who had to be there to witness it firsthand. And I just remember that the therapist got to feel, the work that we did, because she now knows that that gift card came by way of us asking our, members to give. And it just came back full circle. So I may have initiated it, but it takes a team effort to make that whole thing come to fruition, from the person who's just servicing, the person who comes in, to the Filipino Nurses Association, to the businesses that got involved, to the dignitaries who cared enough to give and be there present at that proclamation, on that day at Reflection Bay, and to our families who put up with me, and, Massage Envy teams. It really was a really great time. And the sun was shining so bright that day that I know it was a good thing.
And the fact that you have such a strong, I feel like what makes your locations do well is because of your leadership, and your team supports you because you must be an awesome boss to work for. So,
yeah, but if all what they want to be paid, I'd be even more awesome. But needless to say, there are tough decisions that we as business owners have to make because, let's face it, there's lots of things going on. Inflation,
high turnover,
people making moves. And some of the moves that they've made, are all great choices that they had to make. Like, I had 2 women who have been with me for over 10 years that made the call to be stay-at-home moms because they enjoyed teaching their kids, from home and being there with them. And I couldn't deny them of that because I would never. I was the same mom that basically took that risk to basically leave my corporate America job to start a business I knew nothing about. And so I support them, and I met up with them. I gave them, gifts of a journal, and I'm like, you need to journal what you're doing because this is exciting. And, their relationships with their kids are so much better now. And, that to me is a gift. And they made that choice, and it was the best for their family. And I only want what's best for my people. And that was a story that when you hear how much goodness came out of it and what they're doing right now, and the journey that they had before they took that, leap of faith to leave their jobs, they left me behind with some great stories. And I will always have that relationship with them, and they with me. And for me, at the end of the day, when we leave this earth, the only thing we want to make sure that we leave behind is great memories of great relationships. And I know that is for a fact is what I would be doing if I was in another time. I would say to all entrepreneurs and business owners is that, really cultivate a good relationship. You may not get to them all because, like I said, running 7 businesses, I can't see everybody.
200.
And so
200 employees, you said?
Close to 200 employees. Yeah. And we've lost them along the way because of, business decisions that they made on their own accord, and, some that we've had to make for them. But at the same token, it's really a blessing to know that, we know that they can't stay with us forever, but while they're with us, hopefully they were able to grow, professionally and personally. Some of the best stories I've had was when my aunt passed away. I asked, our 10-year veterans to write me the best story they had at Massage Envy. And what I thought were going to be happy stories, a couple of them, really touched my heart, were sad stories. And I did some videos about a couple of them. And it really touched me to know that we provide a business that helps people to grow, also to see people in other people's journey, get them through some of the toughest times of their lives. And knowing that they would do it in a heartbeat, knowing that they would be able to give some sense of relaxation to someone who can't sleep, to someone who's mourning a death, and to see someone come out of, misery because they were, depressed for losing their husband. And 5 years later, after, getting those massages and therapy from talking to the therapist, they're able to now see that person come back to their original self. So that's the beauty of my job. And we're in the health and wellness, and there's nothing more than having gratitude, knowing that my business provides these wonderful stories, and we get to touch people in so many different ways. And so I feel like I've been blessed in that capacity to witness all of that.
And I'm super thankful that you've been able to tell us your story in this show. And I'm sure there's more to tell. And I really want to continue to follow you, and for people to know, for those of you who don't know, excuse me, if you want to follow her on Instagram, you can go to @Marissa Hawkins 10. And even you have your website as well. It's Marissa Hawkins
you can
10.
reach me on my website, Marissa at Marissa Hawkins 10. And I'm also I started my LinkedIn page during the pandemic. And so I'm also on LinkedIn at Marissa P. Hawkins.
Oh, awesome.
But I have from the very beginning lots of video posts on LinkedIn that you could go to all my posts so you can see the work that I've done. But because I had so much time during the pandemic, it really opened my mind to start writing and writing my experiences and my thoughts. So it was so clear to me that, people can share in my journey by knowing what is happening, in my business. That's my son and my baby. And so literally I've heard lots of remarks like, wow, you went and visited your client. I'm like, yeah, I mean, he couldn't walk anymore. He broke his hip. So he said he couldn't come and get services anymore. And he's sorry, but I still wanted to make sure he was okay. I mean, as a human being, you still want to make sure. He's 90 years old and he's living with his wife and they're old. So, there's a level of respect that I have for my elders that it was innate in us growing up, as you well know. You got to take care of your Lolo and Lola. So it was nothing unnatural for me to just make sure he's okay and, his wife was okay. So it was wonderful because I was able to gift him a present from my daughter that she had made for me. It was a hand-painted koi fish. And in the Japanese culture, koi fish symbolizes love and friendship. Wow. And so I gave it to him and I wrote a little letter for him in the back. But it was amazing because you never know what you could do with your business beyond what you're expected to do for operations and providing paychecks. You can do so much more. And my message to entrepreneurs is when you make your fortune and you become so good at your business, don't forget to give back to your communities and give back to people. And everybody is here for a purpose. And that purpose is your significance is to serve other people. And I'm hoping that every time I get on a new podcast and I share my story, that people will follow suit and take note that they can use their business or themselves as individuals to do something for others and help our communities.
That's so awesome. And I'm sure when people watch this interview or listen to this interview, because I will convert all my interviews into podcasts as well,
nice.
They'll get so much inspiration from you, especially in our Filipino community, Filipino American community and abroad. So I really commend you. I feel so honored to have you on the show and to tell your story. I can't wait to see and hear about your book.
Thank you.
So as soon as you're done, let me know and we can put the links in underneath this interview because this interview is going to be up for a while.
Well, thank you for having the courage to start this Filipino Hustle, podcast. I think there's a lot of great, entrepreneurs out there that people are unaware of, and it's a great platform to bring it to light and to recognize people who, want to do great out there and who are hustling every day that don't get the recognition. And that can inspire other people to say, hey, if I could do it, you can too.
Absolutely. And for those of you who caught this recording later on, and those of you who's watching right now, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I just want you to, for those of you who are interested in being on this show, feel free to contact me and message us because we are looking for guests. We actually have several guests lined up through the summer. And I am ready for more because I would love to ramp it up and have more interviews more often.
You will. I'm going to be sending some people your way as well.
Thank you so much, Marissa. I'm going to go ahead and end this broadcast.
Thank you.